Hello, and welcome to StoryFellas, a podcast where we make stories and we break stories. I'm your host, Tommy Antonucci.
And I'm your host, Zach Lovelace.
This is a podcast where we take an hour to improvise a story using scraps or randomly generated prompts, and then we end the episode with a title for this movie and a line that is contained in the movie. Now that you know how this show works, Zach, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm actually very excited for the end of this week. Tommy and I are teaming up with a couple of other friends, and we've been looking forward to this for a long time. A little bit of a creative retreat / just hanging out. And it's been a while, so I'm excited.
Same. I'm very excited. I think it'll be a fun time, and it'll be fun to, it will just be fun to fight, fist to fist,
Yeah.
I mean, Zach, you're ever in the same room, we have to fight each other. Dragon Ball Z style.
Our show, that's our show's over Zoom, Riverside, I guess. But because we want to murderously attack each other whenever we see each other. But no, it should be a good time when we team up with our buddies too, because it's just, like I said, it's been a while, and I'm really bad about taking PTO. Like, I always have PTO at the end of the year, so it's good to be like, just go do your thing. And my wife is being very gracious, letting me go off and do that, just for a couple of days. It's not like it's a week or anything.
Yeah, it'll be fun. And maybe we'll tell some stories there, but right now we're going to tell a story here. And I'm going to need you, Zach, to roll some dice for me.
No way.
Can you roll me a D10? A D10 to choose a story prompt.
Really? I've never done this before.
Do it.
Give me a second. Here we go. Rolling it. I rolled a 2.
A 2.
Hot 2.
Okay. This is interesting because this is almost a scrap, but didn't feel like there was enough meat on the bones for me to call it a scrap. But this is an idea I had a while back. But the prompt is: creatures that no one can see. They eat the innocence of youth. They are what turn children into adults. So I kind of pictured this originally. It almost feels like a PG adventure, like Tomorrowland-esque, where it's this like weird, uncanny world. Or what's that, Mrs. Something or Other's School for Particular Children? That kind of vibe?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. A peculiar, what's her face? Yeah. Good job, Tim Burton, on picking a terrible title. I think he just published it, though.
But something like that, where like that's what I initially envisioned. And I don't know how much you want of my initial envision, because you can say scrap all that. But I like this idea of these like super tall Slender Man-esque creatures that you can't see, or that have like glowing faces, and they just like suck the essence out of children, and it's kind of what makes them more adult-like.
Interesting.
And then, I don't know, an adventure on seeing how that works. But that also the reason I didn't form this to a fully formed idea is this one creature doesn't feel like it's enough to merit the story. So maybe it's more of a world of creatures, and this is one of the creature,
Oh, okay. That's kind of cool. Just a menagerie of other monsters, and this is just one of them. Feels a little Monsters, Inc. Just a little bit, though.
Yeah.
But I do think that's an interesting concept. You'd have to. There's enough legs there to, make a story. I think the other thing is that you're not really in danger. Like, I guess you'd have to play up the whole the idea that the kids want to stay kids. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
so
that's true. There's no real stakes because everyone becomes an adult, so you're not dying by the hand of these creatures or anything like that. My brain went to, what if we did? I feel like sometimes if we want to make something absurd or funny, we just think, how would this play in a Tim Robinson sketch?
That would be funny if this lately.
Well, yeah, and we're not going to put Tim Robinson in everything, but thinking of the tone of what that movie would be if there was a man who started seeing these, he's like, oh, this is what sucks the joy out of children, and he sees it like sucks the like innocence and the fun out of adults too, like more limitedly. And then this guy's a man child, and the monsters do not pay attention to him at all. And that's why he's so immature.
Why didn't you want to eat
hey,
me? He
why
gets
aren't
mad
they-
about it. He's like, why didn't you want to eat me? Well, I'm not good enough for you. I do think that just kind of taking the concept and launch padding off of it, you could have him working in a dreary office job, where he's just like checking lines of code and he's just alongside tons of other people. It's a little like Severance, I feel like. Maybe not as serious.
Yeah, I immediately pictured Adam Scott. Is that his name?
Yeah, Adam Scott. Yeah, stuck in the never-ending void of whatever that company is. But this idea that when you show up, like everybody else at work, he's maybe the new hire, but he realizes that there are monsters, invisible monsters that the company has, basically. Maybe they employ them even, and they just like spider around on the ceiling and just like dip down into the cubicles. And it's like as soon as somebody has a good idea, they just like suck up the good idea. I don't know. It's very Hudsucker Proxy, this kind of like fantastical bureaucratic thing going on, like Kafka-y kind of thing.
Yeah, I like immediately the idea of confining this to a workspace because the whole world and having these monsters feels too big. So I think it's more interesting if there is a workspace where these monsters are, as you said, employed. And I think some new guy gets this job and he just desperately needs a job. And they're like, yeah, come to our corporate office. You can read this code or something like that. Maybe the ruse of it is they want daydreams or something. They want, like you said, ideas. So the more boring they can make the job, the more people tend to zone off and daydream, and then they're siphoning.
That's interesting. And
ideas.
He's like perfectly boring guy, and he just can't be. He doesn't daydream at all.
That would be really funny, actually, if he's just so boring that he never daydreams, and
which makes a terrible main character, by the way, that he's boring.
I just imagine, because maybe when the things siphon the thing, like everyone's already kind of get this like zoned out, like blah look, because when the things start siphoning ideas from you, it like really drains you and you kind of forget. So like no one's really aware that the monsters, even though they're super obvious, they're like climbing on the walls, but everyone else is just like so subdued. And then he's just like, just seeing everything. And they're like, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Just to piggyback off of that, I think that they are invisible, except that he something happens with like his computer or something like that. And I think that they are the IT department. And maybe that we can do like a play on words, or maybe human resource department. And so they're like sucking the souls out of the humans. And so, of course, the human resource, that's like a play on words, obviously, where they're just, oh, yeah, you are our resource. We're going to eat you, kind of like the Matrix. You're just a battery, bro. You're just a battery. But something happens with his computer. And this is a little like They Live, which there are aliens in that movie that come down and they've already conquered the world. But Roddy Piper finds these sunglasses he puts on and he can see them where nobody else can. So that's kind of cool. But they're disguised as humans. So he puts on the glasses and they're like ghoulish looking, gross faces and stuff. But so we could go that direction. So a little They Live, a little Severance, and he just shows up and he's like, oh, totally normal, boring company. And he's like, I'm so glad to have this job. And it's like, all we need you to do is move this pile of paper into this pile. Just sort them, by whatever. And he's just like, that's it? And he's like, yeah, that's it. That's it. I love that the underboss, if you will, like that Lumberg from Office Space is like an actual alien or monster. But he like has a human face and everything, and eventually finds out that he's evil and he has to kill him. But anyway, that he like goes to the IT department. Maybe the IT department the guy knows is kind of the thing. So we have a secondary character that like teams up with him and like pulls him into the adventure. What do you think about that?
Okay. That's cool. I was trying to think, this is right on the line of it being a real movie or like a absurd comedy. It's already a little in the absurd because people are so bored that the monsters are stealing the life and joy out of them. I was trying to think what could make him see him, and I imagine he's like going to the copier and the copier's not working, and he keeps hitting buttons, and he like opens it and he looks and it like shoots the light in his eye, and some reason like the dilation of his eyes, he can see the monsters. He's like, and because it's really funny if the guy has to keep zapping his face with the copier to see them for extended periods of time.
Big flashes of light allows him to see him. That's kind of cool. Definitely interesting. I think the IT guy could remark on that and say like, oh yeah, like, what happened with me is my lamp broke or something, and it actually flashed in my eyes, and I was able to see them at that point. So that flash of light, so that they keep doing that, or maybe the IT guy eventually, like finds a device or makes a device that could help you see them. Also, maybe the IT guy is actually somebody who doesn't work there anymore. So he got fired, and maybe there's like a homeless guy in the beginning that you see that's like hassling him, and he's like, "Don't go in there, man! Don't go in there, man!" And that's actually the old IT guy. And he I feel like the first act break is when that IT guy hands him. Well, let's name these guys first because we're going him. We can name the first guy Adam, the main guy. That's perfect. Our boy Adam. And that's the new hire. And then the homeless guy, his name can be, let's see, he was in IT. What are some IT type names though? I don't know.
Justin?
Let's go with Justin is great. Yeah. Okay. So Justin and Adam.
And let's name the low level boss, the Mr. something.
Yeah, Lumberg. Let's go with Craig.
Mr. Craig or just Craig?
Just Craig. Yeah.
Getcha.
Yeah, maybe some other employees like, he starts, he's like, "Oh, who's that?" And he's like, "Oh, that's Craig. That's your boss." "Oh, yeah. Okay, Craig. Craig, hi, I'm blah, blah, blah." And turns out that Craig like just only goes by that one name. Like, that's
he's just gag. Craig.
Yeah.
It's really funny if he has a nameplate on his desk that just says Craig.
Yeah.
Nothing else. There's no last name on it. That's really
Were you
funny.
like the first Craig? No need to qualify. But yeah, so he ends up, what is it? I forgot his name already. The homeless guy, Justin.
Adam?
Justin gives him a USB drive. Gives Adam a USB drive. And it's like goofy, weird looking one, like looks like a big toe or something. I don't know, like just something that would be funny to look at, like just, and it's like against the kind of gray, boring background. It's like this thing, even like a Hello Kitty one would be funny. It's like just highly contrasted, different. And so he has to hide it. And they're like, "Oh," and Craig is like sniffing around, like literally sniffing, just, and he's just like, "Oh, what's going on here?" And he's like, I got a new tie. That's not an approved color. No, I don't think we need to go that far. I think the more mundane and like normal it feels, the funnier it'll be. I think when you find out that there are these aliens. I say aliens, whatever they are, monsters.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I think that sounds good. If we're going through this story circle a little bit, I think we establish our protagonist on the U section. I think Adam is kind of a guy who means well, but can't keep a job super well. And that's what makes him kind of desperate of, "Oh man, I just haven't been able to make a job work. And I'll work really hard here." And he's like, so that's kind of fun. He's kind of a screw up, and he could be really
a younger guy too, like out of college, that kind of thing. And he's like, "Finally, my first real job." He like calls his parents, and they're like, "How was your first day?" And he's like remembering like Craig sniffing him and all sorts of other stuff. And he's just like, I mean, it was good. It was good. All sorts of weird things happening.
Yeah, and I think that's our need section. Need is something isn't right. So he's at the job. He's thinking, this is weird. he's willing to work hard, but the job is so mundane, like the most mundane thing he's ever seen. It's just, oh, can you copy stuff from this spreadsheet to that spreadsheet? Can you can you organize these papers alphabetically into here? And at first he's like, oh, okay. And they're like paying him. So he's like, okay, yeah, this isn't that hard. I don't fully understand. And maybe they get paid pretty well too. Maybe his salary's surprisingly
I would
good.
think so. Yeah.
So he's getting the vibe that things are weird. His coworkers are drained, kind of. A lot of them are. Like the new hires are kind of rosy-eyed, and then they start to get tired. And the old people who've been there forever are just like, super dreary. So he's realizing something isn't right. And what's the kind of I think pretty quickly we need him to start realizing what's happening. Maybe the guy gives the thumb drive. The Hello Kitty thumb drive or something. And I don't know if he's meant to plug it into the work computer or if he takes it home and he plugs it in and he kind of sees it's like all the guys' notes.
It's got like nothing on it, you know. He like puts it and he's like, what is, and it's one file, you know. I don't know. Like you could have a lot of like really good dry jokes in there.
Okay, I've got an idea. Because I feel like the Justin the homeless guy, like him being full homeless kind of creates like he's not doing a lot. I like the idea where he's like gives them the thumb drive. He's like, oh, check this out, acting crazy. Gives them the Hello Kitty thumb drive. And he like looks at it at work, but he gets nervous. So he waits and he goes home, puts it in his laptop, and it just completely destroys his laptop, like with viruses. It just and then, it like explodes, like it catches fire and explodes. And he goes back. He's like, dude, that first off, it's really funny to just plug in a thumb drive you got from a homeless dude.
That's true. And think that it's not going to be, you know, bad.
Yeah. And then there is he goes back to Justin and he's like, dude, he's like kind of hushed. He's like, the thumb drive you gave me destroyed my home computer, my personal computer. And then Justin drops the facade. He's like, dude, you were supposed to plug it into the computers in the office. And then he's kind of trying to play a homeless guy so that he can kind of get stuff in or something like that. Yeah. And then we kind of have this guru guy. He's like, I used to work here. He was like, let's go. And they go to like, I don't know, a burger joint for lunch.
One of our secondary like characters is this guy that like can't get over working somewhere bad. Like that's basically his whole shtick is he can't move on.
Yeah.
Which just feels like, I don't know, Tommy and I both have that in our past. And it is very difficult when you work somewhere bad where it just, you know, terrible experience or whatever with the job itself. I've had that before, like working retail and whatnot. And, you know, you just like can't stop thinking about it afterwards. You want to go back and tell your boss something or whatever. I just think that's so funny.
It is funny. It's even funnier because that is a real thing. And some listeners might be able to relate where you think, oh man, yeah, you just want to keep hearing what's going on and you want to give them a piece of your mind and stuff. It would be funny if the thing the aliens are doing, it's not great, but it's also not fatal. He's like, it's going to kill them in 50 years or something like that. Yeah. It just like kind of drains their life force a little bit. So like, it's still like stakes. Like we should probably stop these alien things from sucking out the souls slowly. It's like almost like a smoking situation where it's like not going to immediately kill them. So it's also, and then it's like, but they are getting paid pretty well. It's like, yeah, but they don't know they're being absorbed. But to have real stakes, we could have it kill them too. But it is funny, these two guys where the stakes aren't like super severe, but in their minds, they have to do something about it is really funny to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would want to do something about it if I knew that some sort of alien race was sucking humanity dry, even in just something as mundane as like, oh, they make me do a stupid office job 9 to 5. And there's a lot of interesting themes going on here in terms of like, are humans really supposed to be working in corporate arrangements? Like how we arrange ourselves, is that really the best way to do it? I think that's prescient for most people. And they would sit through the plot is my point, like regardless of the stakes being like humorously low.
Yeah, I think the stakes being low is funny. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking Adam could be a timid dude and Justin is the kind of crazy guy who's really bent on taking this place down. They both are. And maybe we get pretty early on. He's like, dude, you need to, I don't want to copy it. So like give him glasses. Like maybe Justin gives him glasses that will help him see the thing that feels very close to the other movie.
Yeah, to They Live. I think what you could do is, well, one, he gives him the hard drive, or the thumb drive. There's that, and that could show him, something on the other side. But he's not going to plug that in immediately. So that doesn't. I think he needs to learn. He needs to take his advice basically and realize, oh yeah, and maybe it's reflections or something like that, where he's like, look in the reflections, which just sounds like a crazy thing to say, where he can see the spider things on the ceiling that like dip down and like suck the soul out of people. Or he says like, use the printer on floor 3, and knowing that it'll flash him and would cause him to be able to see him,
That's cool.
I think that would.
I like that. I like the change in lights, is like, because it's, in the most mild way, self-harming, like he has to suffer through it to see the things. Cause I imagine him keeping a flashlight in his desk drawer, and when no one's looking, he just shines it in his eyes real quick. And then he sees stars, and then he can see things as they are.
That's cool. And there's something to be said about the fluorescence of the workplace. So if he could somehow turn off the lights, he could see them. Not like lights out necessarily, where they're like totally, shrouded or whatever, but it just however their skin operates, or their cloaking device or whatever, it would allow them to be seen, or an aspect of them to be seen. Maybe I don't know. It's kind of like I'm trying to work around the Predator thing as well, that. Where they have something that, okay, it's not perfect, but in a lower light scenario, you can kind of see their form, something like that. That like the bathroom.
I like the fluorescence being a machine that shields them. The fluorescence themselves, the lighting in the place is what really,
yes, exactly,
is like a device that disguises them.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That it actually is like a signal to your brain, and so if you could remove those lights, you could see them. And Craig obviously is a big spider thing, kind of like it, not like the clown, because he's actually supposed to be some sort of like transcendent eldritch spider. But I just like that. If he's actually like legit, just like a big kind of, I imagine like Men in Black type effects, where there's like puppetry going on, and so eventually when we do see Craig, like for what he really is, it's like you see the guy, and then behind him is just this huge spider thing, like fat, ugly spider thing. That's gross.
That is here. I've got an idea on some of this, because I keep looking at the circle. So we establish Adam. He thinks things are weird. Real quick, what is keeping him, and if Justin makes it back into the workplace, what is keeping them from being eaten by these monsters, you think?
They act ignorant. They lie about it. I don't know. I mean, I know that, like, of course, like you're saying, is there some sort of plot armor we could give them, or some sort of device or something that would stop them from being seen?
Like
detected.
if there's spider creatures on the wall absorbing people's essence, what's keeping their essence from being absorbed? Is it just their awareness? Maybe the creatures are slow, and if they're aware, they can, when it's like approaching them, then he's like, oh, I gotta go make some copies, and he just walks away.
I guess there's probably just not that many monsters. So there's like one per floor, and they're just, if you could see them, they like extend their long arms down, and it looks like they kind of spin a web around your head. But what they're doing is they're pulling all that energy out of your head, and it's just, and then they ball it up, and then they go away back up into a big vent, like up into the ceiling. And I guess they take it to the top level where there's a mother spider thing, and she's, eats it. Or they put it into a machine, and then it's just. I do like the idea that Justin gets there too. Maybe he puts on a disguise and he starts working there as a janitor. Would be funny to me if he's just in the background and he's like trying to coach Adam, because
he's not basically Justin is saying you have to get a promotion so you meet the big boss and then you hit her with this, and it's just like some like rocket launcher or something.
It's just a bomb. He just made a bomb. It's which actually would be kind of cool. But I do think introducing some other characters could help increase the stakes, increase some of the more emotional undercarriage of our story here. So like a workplace crush could be good. As well as maybe Adam needs to keep his job because his mom is sick. You know, there's just another reason, like and she lives with him, even though he's like a college student. So I guess you could technically say he lives with her, but she's just got some sort of condition or whatever, needs medication. And so when he comes home that first day, she's like, "Oh, how was it?" Clearly not like totally with it, but well-meaning. And so he's like, "Oh, well, I got to keep the job." I don't know.
I think that's interesting. Really yeah, I think he needs to do that. I think he's reluctant to risk his job. I think he's kind of very curious when he finds out there's monsters in this place. And Justin's whole thing is, we've got to take this thing down from the inside. Mm-hmm. And he's more nervous. He's kind of going along, like trying to figure out what is happening at this workplace. But at the same time, I think that's an interesting pool where he's thinking, I'm getting paid pretty well. And if I could just keep quiet then and avoid the monsters, like I know how to watch out for them, then I can just keep. And maybe he meets another guy like that. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, I know there's monsters here. He's like, you do? He's like, yeah, but the money's really good.
Really good. Yeah. I love that. I love that because what you're doing is you're remarking on this idea that even though you would know the right thing to do in a workplace, like you choose to stay. And there are people who like, hey, that's not my fight, dude. When these are like literally soul sucking aliens that are like, whatever. And that's even kind of the trap that Adam finds himself in, where he's like, well, the benefits, like I'm hurting my mom if I don't. So it's like the dilemma is really strong. Like take care of your mom or like do the right thing.
Yes. Cause I think that's also having a character or two who are that they are in a way a minor antagonist for them because they are the opposite of how he's feeling internally. And it's an interesting symbol for a toxic workplace because the whole idea is, hey, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I've learned to navigate this. I've learned how to work this. And you're basically acknowledging, it's an unhealthy place, but I'm going to just work the system just so I can get what I need to get out of it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it lends itself to that so perfectly. I'm thinking of scenes where he runs into Craig outside of work. Like you run into a coworker somewhere and they're like at the grocery store. And I don't know. I think that just would be so, maybe Craig is actually he's not an actual spider being, but he's kind of like classic vampire type thing where they have underlings that are humans that like want to be vampires. And he's like, to get a promotion, he'll do anything. And he's just this like stooge. He's a stooge. And so he just ends up like fighting him, or Craig is like following him and stuff. And eventually they have a conflict. Or maybe it's just weird.
What if he, okay, hold on, hear me out. I feel like we're filling this story out a bit more. He's got his dilemma with his mom and stuff. And he has these people who know there's monsters. Maybe there's another new hire, this girl, who's working there that she doesn't know there's monsters, but he keeps on seeing the monsters and he's like, hey, could I get your help with something? And basically moves her out of the way when the monsters are coming towards her. Because I like them being super, super slow. Like, so like if you move out of the way, that's how he's avoiding it. Like it's coming towards him. And if he just moves, it's like zombie style, like they'll just go to the next nearest guy and do their little dreamweave thing to him. So it's not hard to avoid if you know what you're looking for.
And he could inspire them to go to the next cubicle over by, asking them a creative question, like inspiring some sort of creativity out of that person next to them. Throwing I could just imagine like a funny like workplace calendar that's like kittens or something, and he just has that and he throws it over the cubicle to the next guy and he's like, what's this? And the monster like overlooks his thing and goes to the next one.
So, I like that a lot. And he probably learns that from Let's give this. I think we need to give the guy who is working the system a name. The guy who works there that is basically knows what's going on and is just trying to keep his head low.
Not
He's like
Craig,
the opposite
right?
of Justin. Yeah. So
Yeah.
Craig is the low level boss. Justin is working as the janitor, and he's the opposite of this dude. What about Evan? Evan
Evan's
is there,
good.
and
Evan is good. Yeah.
Evan is working the system. So he's basically the opposite of Justin. Justin wants to tear this thing apart. Evan's just like, I'm getting paid well. I have a line for Evan where he just says, he's like, hey, the money's good and the monsters are slow. That's kind of just what he says to
I
him.
like that. Yeah. Or just the monsters pay good, man.
The monsters pay good.
I like that a lot. 'Cause it sums it up right there.
Yeah.
Monsters, they just pay so well. The benefits are so good.
We can call it Monsters Incorporated.
Yeah. Ooh. No, I did think that. What is it? Adam is like in accounting, like that's what he actually does. And he's like looking through and he finds the actual name of the company because it's got some other name, Globotech, whatever. And it's like Giant Spiders LLC. I just, it's something where it's like, yeah, we needed to start the company and this is what it was. Anyway.
Yeah. They're kind of like big Slender Man-esque. I feel like they've got humanoid torsos, but maybe big, lots of legs. And they're very slow. But I was going to say, I think he sees Evan do that. Evan's like, oh, watch this. And the thing's coming. And Adam's like, dude, what? And he's like, hey, Phil. And just asking him, he's like, what's your favorite? Did you ever read comic books? What's your favorite comic book? He's like, oh, let me think about that. And then the thing just like turns to him instead. And like, because he's just thinking of creative, interesting stuff. And then he's like, oh yeah, I remember reading this one comic book when I was a kid, and you can see the thing weaving. I like the idea that you said, like weaving around their head. He's like doing like this churning thing. And then he's like, I don't remember much of it anymore. Like he actively loses the creative thought as the thing does the thing to him. And Evan's like, oh, thanks anyway. And then the monster moves on. And so Adam realizes he can do that. Maybe tells Justin that he can do that. And then he's trying to protect the girl, which maybe we can name her too.
Yeah, let's go with Stacy. Classic.
Stacy's mom has got a job. Stacy is the crush. I think the scene I was gonna say is that if things start breaking bad and if we get to we're gonna fight the big boss and there's more monsters and they're all coming after them, I imagine Adam and Justin are like, Craig's like, what do you guys think you're doing? And then they grab Craig, and every time the monster tries to like absorb them, like just use him as a human shield, and Craig's like, oh. He's just like running and holding this guy, and he's just like, my creativity.
He's just like completely lobotomized by the end of it. Just, that's the other thing too. Maybe they can't feed on people too much. It's like they do need to, like they could kill you if they just sat there and weaved on you. They could just suck you dry basically. But I like this story a lot because thematically we have a lot of really good triangulation. So this is something that you should do when you're writing stories, is that your characters are all responding to the same theme, all to the same idea. And so it's how everybody responds to this idea of a toxic workplace. Like we said already, Evan is this guy that's just, he thinks he's gaming the system. He's like, oh, I'm getting good benefits, so that's all. Like, I'm going to keep my head low. And maybe that even happens is like keeping my head down, when they bulldoze over and they're like in the final fight. And it's like, can Evan actually, Evan has an arc now. Does he actually change? Does he actually forego the benefits? And maybe he ends up dying, which I like, because his whole thing was the health benefits. And so it's like the full arc is that he ends up dying, which is just funny. But Justin, obviously his reaction is to be like, I need to actively fight against this company because of what they're doing. And of course, our main character is the one who kind of negotiates between all of them. And their what's his face? Adam's arc is to eventually help bring the company down. But his main concern is whether or not he has a job. So maybe he like inherits the company, or something to that degree. Is like he's the new boss because he was in accounting. He can work it out and maybe has paperwork and maybe gets the giant big boss at the end to sign the paperwork. That actually does it. And that's kind of interesting and Kafka-esque in its own way, where it's like these alien spider things abide by paperwork.
Yeah, that's very Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as well. The very I keep thinking of, have you seen The World's End, the Edgar Wright film?
Yeah.
For mild, well, spoilers for people who don't want to hear the skip ahead like 30 seconds. There's aliens in that, and basically they get to the big boss alien at the end, and the thing is they're like, go away, we don't want you here, and they're like, but we're making the world better, and they're like, go away, and they just leave. Like that's like the big finale is they just leave. And I think something like that where maybe Justin keeps thinking it's like, use the bomb, and then Adam just has a conversation with like the Madam Spider, like the big one, and he's just like, hey dudes, I don't know, like logicking your way with paperwork sounds really funny, and it's like, oh, that's an excellent point. You know what? We're going to go do that. I promote you to boss or something like that. And that's how they get to the end of the story is kind of funny. That would be
with them. If they don't kill anyone, although I guess they could kill people and it would still be funny. It's almost funnier that way. If they killed people and then they just leave because of one thing.
It could get a tie to the paperwork and a tie to the toxic thing if the boss is just like, several people died today. If we just sweep this under the rug, how do you feel about us just leaving or something like that? Like they don't want to deal with the logistics of that. He's like, okay. Like he's like, and they're like, and they take like the corpses and they just disappear or something like that. I don't know. I
think that would be really funny. I think that you could get dark with it. And, Adam and Justin are like, we need to get the authorities on this. And they come to find out that the authorities have their own spider pod people. So it's just this idea that like anywhere there's a group of people that operates under this kind of corporate mindset is where it actually starts they get attracted to it. It's like, you guys attracted us, this attracted us. We didn't invent this. We just make sure that it keeps running.
We just feed off of it. Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I would rather have the bomb go off kind of moment. And then everyone realizes that they're there at the end, that's kind of cool. Like you just remove the cloaking device and then you just end it right there. Whether or not you kill off Adam and Justin and Evan, which now I'm just imagining the guys from Workaholics. Like they're all like perfectly,
that would be funny.
Their personalities are like perfectly matched on top of that. But yeah, you could just end it really quickly after that because it's just you're letting the world know and what does the world choose to do. You could go sadder and like the world chooses to just keep going with the spider people, and we can see you now. I don't know if we can Monster Inc. our way out of it where it's like instead of eating our creativity, they ate whatever. We just changed their diet. Or maybe they laugh about that. They could even bring that up. And they're like, well, have you tried that? And it's like, no, it doesn't work like that.
It could be the bomb goes off, it blows up, because it's interesting because since it's, again, I don't love ending something on too sour of a note, but since this is kind of more a symbol, it almost becomes a symbol for draining toxic workplaces in general. The idea that they do this drastic stuff and maybe a bomb goes off and they blow out the side of the thing. And then at the end, there's a now hiring sign and they're reopening or something. And there's new eager people, malleable people who are jumping at the bit to be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, that sounds actually pretty good. Because that also kind of speaks to the turn of a workplace like that, like people leave.
Yeah.
and
I
because they're like,
think,
oh, this isn't great, and then new people come in the door.
yeah, that's actually, instead of that place opening again, because like the bomb goes off on the penthouse and like kills the giant spider at the end, and it
Yeah.
destroys that hive, if you will. Then the next time it's like Adam interviewing for a job, and he sees a little glint of the spiders in the next workplace.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's where we hide it until then. So maybe we don't show it in the police station as much. We could.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that is what's showing our hand. You think this is like some weird thing, and then it's like, oh no, any corporate environment has these guys. And maybe we do have the spider talk about that, and it's more a symbol at that point of the drain.
Totally. And I think that's an interesting message. And then most people can relate to that. And it seems at home with something like The Matrix. You know, you are just powering something way bigger than yourself. It's that idea that like you want to live for something bigger than yourself. They even say that, and it's like, yeah, you're living for the spider race. We're bigger than you. You know? That's interesting, and it's a dark spin on that kind of positivity. You know, they even say that, like, that's something that Craig would say, is like, live for something bigger than yourself, man. He even says that. It's like you finally reveal this giant, nasty looking, enormous spider mom boss thing. And it's like straight up literally eating some people, like just, and he's just like, dude, you just need to relax. Like, this is Craig to I guess an apprehended Adam, you know, he's like been caught, and he's like, he doesn't realize that he's got a bomb on him, maybe, is the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Craig is just like, you got to just like give yourself up to something bigger, man. I think that is a really good, that might be my pitch for the along the lines at the end. From Craig,
I like
just trying to, because it's so like corporate positivity, you know, it's like really just manipulative, and it's so obvious at that point because we're drawing on the symbols and the themes and stuff. But I just think that's super funny. And then he has like a suitcase with a bomb in it, and he's just shuffling towards them.
So I think does Adam and his crew die? Do they all die at the end?
I don't think
they
die. I think Justin dies. I think Evan dies. I think Craig dies. The only one who survives is
Adam.
Although, what about Stacy? Maybe he gets Stacy out of there.
I think he gets Stacy out, where we have this final boss fight where the boss is fighting them, and he's got the bomb with the suitcase, and Evan has to make a change. Like, Craig is use a human shield and gets like drained to death or something. Evan decides in the last minute, he's like, okay, I am going to help these guys. It's the straw that broke the camel's back, but he dies in the process. And I think you got Adam and the homeless guy, and then Adam's trying to do something with the bomb, and he loses the suitcase in the process, and the spiders are taking him. And then Justin comes with his mop and just like starts doing judo on the spiders. And he just grabs the case under his arm. He's like, go, I've got this. And he just like starts sprinting towards the big spider. And then Adam's like, oh, and he like runs out of the big office, like down the stairs. He's like, we gotta go. He like grabs Stacy, and she's like, what are you talking about? And then like the whole building's like blowing up behind them, and they have to run out of the building.
I like rewinding a little bit to Evan's moment. Evan, I think. Yeah. Craig has them captured, you know, they're in like the final floor, they're seeing the giant monster and everything. Evan comes and shows up, and he's like, he comes at the last minute and saves them. But I like that he does get like stabbed in the back, quite literally, by one of these giant like spider leg things. But just that idea again of him being like health benefit driven. And then he's just like, you know, but like, oh, Evan, you can't, we didn't think you'd do that. And he's like, you know, it just basically says some quick line about, you know, health benefits are only good if you're alive, you know, and they're like starting to kill people here, and then he gets killed. But yeah, he has like that small arc. I do like that the building blows up, and Adam and Stacy are barely alive. No, they're not hurt or anything, but they like barely escape. And then the end of the film is Stacy being like, hey, you should interview at this new place that I got a job at. And he shows up and he sees it like there at the end. I like that because even though like she is kind of a love interest thing, this idea that she never fully got out of the system, I think is interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And they can maybe even be dating by the end when we flash forward a little bit, and it acknowledges they're dating, and she's like, yeah, you should check out this place. Or he's already coming to interview,
She's like, oh, you're going to do great. Like she's like the front desk and she's like, you're going to do great, and gives him a kiss on the cheek or something like that. And then in the interview, you basically have an adjacent Craig and you see like catch the glimpse or like there's like a flash of light or something with the lamp or something. And you can see in the background, like way down to the hallway, you just see another spider walk along the hall.
Yeah, that he like catches a glimpse of it, and it sees him, you know, and then it just kind of like the cloak comes back on or whatever. I just think that's, yeah. He maybe we realize and we thread in some sort of visual indicator that they're around, like the plants in the office die or something like that. Where then at the end he just like focuses in on that, and it just like zooms in on the plant,
just
and then it like does a reverse zoom on him. Yeah. And he's just like,
he's like, he's just like,
no, I think he just has that kind of like, I guess I got to do it again type thing. That type mentality. I don't know. It's kind of cool. How are the benefits here? That would be a really dark line actually. At the end, like he sees the dead flowers and then like turns to the guy interviewing him and he's like, but how are the benefits? Or they say like, do you have any questions for us? Yeah. How are the benefits? Man, that would be dark.
Oh, like, cause he fully switches at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say, how are the benefits here? And they say they're to die for.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty good. I like the idea that it's just you know, we're not telegraphing it that hard. It's just purely that he has resolved himself to the fate.
Yes.
Of like, you can't get away, or he could deliver it in a way that's like giddy up, like, you know, like, you know what I mean? That he's
going to take this one down too, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like you could read the line either way. So I really like that. How are the benefits?
I like it too. I think this is a cool story. I think it's interesting because it's very symbolic, which we didn't really mean to do from the beginning. And this isn't to say, hey, there are some good workplaces out there. Not every workplace is bad, but this is a reflection of worse workplaces. Workplaces.
It's true. And there's something to be said. There's a little bit of social critique, obviously, of like not just toxic workplaces, but people being totally detached and away from the real world and real world consequences, and how us as humans have been programmed to do things like just doing what's known as knowledge work, just behind a computer all day. It's actually not super great for you. It's not good for your body. It's not good for your mind. It's not good for your soul. So I don't mind that we're taking a swing. That type of thing as well. I mean, Office Space has that as well in the ending of Office Space, where he's like, I just want to be a construction worker kind of thing. He just goes out and like is working with his hands. And I think that's a similar state where we're in. But yeah, I like that. Although if you think about like what would be on Adam's resume, I just thought about this. Like he's in the interview at the end, and it's like, oh yeah, the company that blew up. Like literally blew up. You're the only surviving employee or whatever. Yeah, let me hire you, even though we're like full of spider people as well.
That's funny. I've got some potential titles as well.
Yeah, hit me, man.
One of them I thought of was occupational hazard is interesting.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
I feel like
definitely the corporate words, I think, is what we're going to be.
Yeah, it has to do with corporate. So occupational hazard, because there's clearly it's an occupation. There's hazard, like these spider things are eating on people.
Yeah.
A while back for Maritime, you pitched the idea for that one as company man. I think company man could kind of work here too. We didn't end up using that clearly. So company man's in the running. I also think the new hire is interesting.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Because he's like the sole guy. Like it's kind of up to him. The new hire is the one who's going to solve this situation. Do any of those scream out to you? Or do you have some others?
New hire definitely does. That feels like it has a good, especially with him at the end being like in a hiring situation again, gives him a good like bookend type thing. I do like we're on the right runway in terms of like occupational hazard. I think that works. It doesn't have enough like flavor for me. If there was, I know there are more like corporate words out there. But the one that comes to mind is jargon.
Gotta be.
I really like jargon.
Sure.
but that would be, you'd have to thread something in there to make that make sense. Like the what they want, what they need you to say and stuff is like be completely meaningless, being drained of any real creativity. And it's its own kind of little speak. You'd have to thread something in there to make that make more sense though. So that was what popped in my head earlier. It's just short, sweet, and like gets to the point with the corporate thing. But like I said, I think I like New Hire more than that.
Okay. Do you like the New Hire or just New Hire?
I like the New Hire.
That's what I was thinking, man. The New Hire feels like it fit well. Sweet. Well, I think the New Hire is very interesting. It's funny. It's weird. It's very quirky, and but there's actual real stakes to it too. I like it a lot, and I think we just need to end this guy with and along the lines. And listeners, if you have not listened before, we have ways to reach us in the show notes, and you can comment on the YouTube channels. We'd love to hear from you. If you had more ideas for scenes or want to let us know what you thought of this story, hit us up. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah. So our Along the Lines, I think, is probably that moment with Craig at the end where he's basically in the chamber with the giant mom spider thing, with Adam kind of showing him behind the curtain, showing him his fate, which is going to be to be fed to this giant monster. And, you know, obviously Adam is apprehensive about this and like visually recoiling from seeing a giant, like fat, disgusting spider thing eat people. And, you know, Craig, as the stooge he is, turns to him and says, "Come on, man, you got to give yourself up to something bigger."
Thank you all for listening to StoryFellas, a part of the Pemmican Studios podcast network. Check out our show notes for bonus material, links, and more. To find out more about our current projects, send us messages, and suggest ideas for the show, go to StoryFellasPodcast.com. If you liked what you heard, share the show with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to grow this community. Until next time, go make and break those stories.